What's good, friends list, episode 82 of the Gamecast coming at you. As more time goes on, we're beginning to learn that the story of Cyberpunk 2077's development hasn't been written in pencil, but instead a pen, as more allegations of low pay, excessive crunch, and what appears to be an additional 2-year release window seem to have all been on the table at one point. So, this week, we examine these new reports brought forth, what this looks like for the legacy of CD Projekt Red, why such a drastic disconnect has developed between its staff and management, and really why the once expected evolutionary experience lost its vision along the way. Also, a new Resident Evil showcase has been revealed, and with it comes some new details for not only the upcoming Resident Evil Village, but a few surprises as well. Missed out on the announcements? Don't worry, we got you covered. Plus, Team Ninja, the story developer of both the Ninja Gaiden and Neo series, is working on a new title. But, unfortunately for Mike, it doesn't look to be a new entry in either of the previously mentioned franchises. With that being the case, then what are they working on? What does the next step in development for Team Ninja look like? All of this, and much more, on the newest jam-packed episode of the Game Pass Gamecast.
Now the fun begins.
Budget.
Stop! You violated the law.
Welcome back to another episode of the Game Pass Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox Game Pass, and PC gaming, including news, rumors, and conversations around them damn good video games. You can catch new episodes of the show when they drop each and every Friday morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all other major podcast services. So be sure to subscribe to us, rate us, review us, all that jazz that I tell you every week, wherever you get a podcast at, and follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast. Stay up to date with everything regarding the show, video games like, and our dope giveaways. I'm your host, as always, Travis White, aka Travis, on most internet platforms. Joining me, as always, my partner in crime, Mike Peepak. Mike, what's good? What's going on? And I want to save the whole deep run of it, because that's one of our main topics of the show, but we're right off the heels of it, man. We're coming live literally right after it. How fucking hype are you for Resident Evil 8, man? I'm fucking jazzed. I'm like fucking ready to go. Like, is it May 7th? Like, let's fucking jump into it.
Right? I am ecstatic. I basically saw a lot of what I wanted to see from this game from a release standpoint, because there had been tons of leaks going on. Obviously, that's not a secret. Everyone knows that there's been a lot of leaked material coming out, and obviously just really ecstatic to kind of see what they've been working on and what's going on here.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's just something that I have always been I've always been a Resident Evil, somewhat of a fan, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I have never been, so hyped coming off like of the success that 7 had, and I'm just ecstatic to see what they have in store for us with this game that they're coming out with.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I'm very similar to you to an extent. Like, I have history, really. I played a little bit of 4 when it first came out back in the day via a friend, like on GameCube when it was locked away. I never played the original up until, years later or whatever, but 5 was really my kind of entry point to the series back then on 360. So, and it was, to me, granted, much different than what, Resident Evil was, the inception of Resident Evil and what it was first brought to, 5 being much more of a third-person shooter compared to, a survival horror game to an extent, but tons of fun, and it's a fucking fantastic co-op multiplayer game, like a co-op game to play with somebody. I can't recommend it. You could even play it now. I would say technically backwards compatible now with last gen. They had a Xbox One version that did come out for it, so remastered version of it, but highly recommend that. But really what kind of reignited my love with Resident Evil and made me a super fan was 7, and I talk about that all the time, but we'll get into that obviously as we kind of go into the show. But I'm just fucking hyped, man. I'm so hyped. Besides that, besides Resident Evil talk, which we'll talk about in a little bit, what have you been playing, man? It's been, I'm sure, kind of all over this week. I know you and I have been playing a ton of different things like League and things like that, but what else have you been playing?
Yeah, for me, I've just been kind of sticking with the somewhat normal stuff, if you will, but the big noticeable like difference that I have been mixing in there, besides like Phasmophobia and everything, I have like started to pick up just a game of chess, just from like just uh sh- uh like a level of just a beginner, not someone who's taking it super serious, just someone who is genuinely interested in the game. And this isn't coming off the heels of like watching the Queen's Gambit, because I watched that a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a genuine thing of like being interested in the game and enjoying it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I've been doing that's not quite a video game per se. But I had a Halo tournament on Sunday, another one of the draft tournaments where I was the first round pick. I was 6th overall, and my team placed 5th. We got to the winter semifinals. We had a long wait for the semifinals game. Kind of went into it cold. We started out the tournament very hot. And what happened was we wound up going like ice cold because we had sat for so long, and also then to the losers bracket, we were waiting even longer or almost even longer. And, then we end up coming up short there. So obviously not the outcome we wanted, but, 6th place, nothing to really be super distraught over, because it is, somewhat successful. But obviously would have just liked to have a little bit more success than what we had there.
No, definitely. But at least at the end of the day, we're seeing more and more of these grassroots programs, come up. And I know you kind of rave of, Penn Halo in general, at least on a local standpoint or a regional standpoint, I guess you could say, as being, such a kind of beacon of, I don't want to say positivity, but like this place that, is being this beacon of grassroots movements for the game, for the platform of MCC and really Halo in general. While there are so many, you look at CS and you look at all these other competitive first person shooters, and there's so many different avenues where, Halo has, HCS, but outside of that, it's much more grassroots that you find with it right now, just because of, the level of interest and whatnot that the game kind of has right now compared to a lot of bigger titles. But, hopefully that's obviously, knock on wood, that changes as we get later into this year and Infinite comes out, and, hopefully people gel with it and connect with it, and we see similar success, with the first person shooter, especially it being, free to play, as we kind of talked about, previously so many other times. But that's great. On my end, like I kind of talked about last week, I've been trying to learn the League. You and I have been playing. Adam's been playing, kind of here and there. I also started up a new save on Fallout New Vegas. I haven't played that, and I think it's literally because Adam's been like balls deep into it, and it's one of those he's talked about it a few times. I'm like, man, you know what? I'm kind of getting that Fallout itch. Like, I played 4 a couple of months ago. Yet again, I mean, I've played through that game multiple times at this point, but 4 it's just more 3 only, a little more dumbed down, as we kind of talked about before. But Fallout New Vegas really scratches that specific RPG itch that so many other first-person RPGs really seem to miss the mark. And we're talking 10 plus years later now, that it's still so many things that, Obsidian just fucking knocked it out of the park with that game, from a storytelling standpoint, from an immersion standpoint, from just really hitting what Fallout is. And the big thing that I always thought Bethesda doesn't, and I like Bethesda Fallout games, don't get me wrong, but the thing that I always think really Bethesda misses when it comes to how their interpretation of Fallout is, that I think Obsidian and obviously Interplay beforehand got right, was that Bethesda focuses too much on the absolute apocalypse portion of Fallout, where they're more worried about, and it's very evident within, Fallout 4, where, you're picking yourself up, right off. It feels much more, we're more worried about, oh, this world has gone to shit. Look at this desolate world. Look at the environment around you, where what I think is so strong with the original Fallout games, and especially Obsidian's iteration of Fallout with New Vegas, is that they focus more on, no, this is a world that is rebuilding and has been rebuilt, and this is what society is like now, and they focus more on that than the actual just, oh, you're playing a post-apocalyptic game, where this is more, no, you're playing in a world that has been rebuilt, and this is what the new society is, and those stories that they can tell with that. So I've been really having a lot of fun with that, diving back in. I've only just kind of started it last night, really, so I'm just kind of re-diving into it and stuff, and it's been great, though. But outside of that, what I've been playing, too, with my fiance, baby, we started up a new save on The Wolf Among Us. Getting back into it, baby. One of my favorite games of all time, honestly. Like, probably top 10 favorite game. Easily my favorite Telltale game. But I just had that itch of something her and I could just sit there, play it on, we usually play it on Xbox, but I was like, you know what? I've been wanting to test out my the Steam Link app that's on our smart TV. I'm like, let's play it on Steam. I have it on Steam. Let's just load it up from there. It's been great. The latency is ridiculously good for a built-in app for a TV for Steam. So we've been playing it on that, and we're on the 4th episode now. We've just been playing a little bit every night, and it's just been really good to have that. I always like having things that we could both play together, just so I can game more. So her being interested in doing those things and playing games like Telltale games, like, and she's a big fan of Resident Evil 7 too. She loved playing through that with me. So, we'll definitely, be playing that together. But Telltale games and things like that, always kind of the choose your own adventure-esque experiences are always so great for us. So it's been great to dive back into that, just because that game never gets old. No matter how many times I play it, it still just, it scratches an itch that is so hard to hit for so many other narrative-driven games of a similar caliber that, it's just really hard to get that same feeling. So we kind of preach of it all the time. We're just so excited for season 2 finally coming out, or really, I guess, Wolf Among Us 2, because it'll be, I would imagine, somewhat of a new iteration on what was previously done. But since it'll be a new team, a new version of Telltale working on this, I imagine there's going to be some creative liberties taken at times with it. But I digress. Mike, just so we can get into talking about Resident Evil here soon, let's go through Button Mash, because I'm ready to talk about Resident Evil. I'm not gonna lie. So let's jump into Button Mash, hit the quick hit stuff before we get into our big topics for this week. Starting out with, excitement was sparked today after fans spotted Xbox Game Pass suggesting Fall Guys. I got Fallout on the mind now. Fall Guys would be arriving soon, but Mediatonic, But Mediatonic and Devolver have since squashed that idea, with the publisher saying there are, quote, no plans for the game to hit a subscription service. So, kind of a follow-up to last week, how we've talked about that is it coming to Xbox Game Pass, is it not, yada yada. I think it's inevitable that it'll come to Xbox, but who knows. As pointed out by Ron Bag on Reddit, the Xbox Game Pass Instagram account recently replied to a user hoping for Fall Guys on Game Pass by saying, quote, it's coming. However, after news started spreading today, the game's official Twitter account and publisher Devolver moved to deny it. Devolver explained to journalist Tom Warren that there are, quote, no plans for the popular game to come to, quote, any form of Game Pass, meaning the Xbox PC or cloud versions of the service. It's not clear how the miscommunication happened, but the Fall Guys Twitter account called it a, quote, bit of a mix-up. Yeah, I mean, that's definitely a bit of a misconnect whenever you're saying it's coming from your official account. That's kind of... might want to check with that intern who's running that account. A second class action lawsuit has been filed against Cyberpunk 2077 developer and publisher CD Projekt, which, shocker, we have another story about them coming up later in the show. Submitted by a law firm representing the studio's investors, CD Projekt itself states in a regulatory announcement that it has received the lawsuit, which has been filed in the U.S. District Court for the Central District of California on behalf of its investors. The content of the claim is said to be the same as the one filed against the studio at the end of last year. The first lawsuit claims that investors were misled about the performance of Cyberpunk 2077 on Xbox One and PlayStation 4 consoles. Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Quarantine will not be released on March 21st, despite Ubisoft's own Connect service listing that as its release date, which is a very specific date to be like, oh no, that's not when it's coming out. It's like, yeah, usually when it's a placeholder, it's like December 31st, 2021 or whatever, but I digress. Fans noticed that the Ubisoft Connect website had begun listing the game for PS4, Xbox One, and PC release on March 21st, 2021. However, a Ubisoft spokesperson confirmed to IGN that this date is incorrect. It's not clear what has caused the game. Rainbow Six Quarantine is currently slated only for release in Ubisoft's 2021-22 financial year, which stems from April 1st, 2021 to March 31st, 2022. After being formally delayed, along with Far Cry 6 in October last year. Some had taken Ubisoft's Connect date to mean that the game's release had been quietly pushed forward, but sadly, it's not been true. An artist that has worked on the Elden Ring, which is the new game from Software that's coming up, on the teaser trailer for Elden Ring, had posted concept art made for it and made it very clear that he has no intimate knowledge of the game. Of course, this being Elden Ring, the community has gone wild with delight nonetheless. It's been genuinely loved. Posted on an ArtStation account, Gabriel Bjork Styrenstorm, there we go, hopefully I didn't butcher that too bad, showed off several concept pieces along with the observation about why they weren't eventually used in the game's E3 announcement trailer. On the Elden Ring subreddit, Steinstorm posted a statement to contextualize the work and any cool speculation about potential new details hidden in the art. He ends the statement by saying, quote, "You can read into the concept art as much as you like, but I really have no knowledge of the game." And finally, Mike, Bungie has announced that it will close its Halo archives in February. Pour one out, which will mean player stats, screenshots, and files from the developers' Halo games will be gone forever. Detailed as part of the studio's weekly update blog post, Bungie explained that on February 9th, the halo.bungie.net website will be taken offline permanently. Player stats, files, and screenshots from Halo 2, Halo 3, ODST, and Reach are currently stored on the website, although those archives have not been updated in almost 9 years. For the best part of the decade, the website has effectively been in stasis, acting as a memorial for Bungie's pre-Destiny days. Players now have until February 9th to save their stats and files should they wish, which, pour one out, man. I did hop on actually today when I was putting the show notes together. I heard about this earlier this week. I was like, oh yeah, I need to get on there. And it reminded me, oh, I should hop on there. And going back and seeing some of my like Halo 3 screenshots and things like that I'm like, God damn, I remember doing that. Like even I remember the last level of Halo 3, if you super jump you have to do it in co-op, if I remember correctly. But super jumping to the last one part of this level across this big corridor, you'll find some like cutout of a Bungie developer like shirtless, like just moving up and down. It's really weird. And I have a picture of it on there. I was like, oh my God, I remember exactly when I was doing that. It was like 2 a.m. doing it with a couple of like our friends from high school. So it was really nice to go back and look at that. But Mike, before we hop into the big topics for this week, anything you want to run back on Button Mash?
Yeah, the biggest thing that I would like to, kind of talk about is quarantine being delayed.
Mm-hmm.
I think that obviously with everything that's going on in the world, it's not surprising or shocking that this is being delayed.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that is becoming pretty normal in today's day and age, just based on everything that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this is a game that I was pretty excited for just because I've been a Ubisoft fan for a long time before they were Ubisoft, when they were Red Storm Entertainment, and then eventually they became Ubisoft, because I do love classic Rainbow Six games. And not that this was going to fill that itch or anything, but
Mm-hmm.
Rainbow Six games are always a game that I'll give a try, because there is a specific taste that I have that only those types of games can kind of fill the void. And, I was really hoping for that to come out. So obviously, Far Cry is also delayed. So it looks like a full-on delay from Ubisoft there. But I'll have to say, man, Bungie taking down its Halo archive in February is pretty depressing.
Yeah.
It's something that, like, I'm actually shocked it hadn't been done up to, yet. Like, it's surprising that it still exists. But it's something that is a shame, man.
Mm-hmm.
It almost feels like they should just leave it up, because it was part of so many people's childhoods and everything,
Mm-hmm.
that people are going to want to go back and look at these things. But it's a sign of the times that, we're starting to get older and things change, and that's the way it is. So
Mm-hmm.
Obviously pour one out for, the people at Bungie that worked on Halo, and pour one out for all your Halo profiles that are sitting there, haven't been looked at in so long. And, I'm sure that site's getting a large amount of traffic at this point in time based on the fact that, obviously they're going to be deleting that.
Yeah, it is like kind of what you said. It's such a like it's great because it's always been such a memorial almost that their update, Bungie's update did say like really this hasn't been touched in like 9 years. They haven't updated it or done anything on that end, but I think it's so important to have something like this available because it tells the history of the company. And granted, it's a cost to keep running, I'm sure. It's a cost for a server to have that up and to maintain all that. Halo 3 was one of the most popular console shooters of all time. Like, there's a lot of data that's stored on there, so it makes sense and I get it. But at the same time, for a company like Bungie, who has made a ton of money off of this, not only that franchise, but even more so off of Destiny now, that, that's a important piece of history for them. That it's like, it just stinks to see that eventually go away. That, it would have been nice to really see this kind of maintained or kept over time. And granted, MCC is there right now to, house a lot of this stuff, and you can get a lot of these same, moments and things out of that with that. But at the same time, this is really history that you're looking at. Not only, Bungie's history, but also player history. I mean, looking at, I just pulled up mine again here to look at it. And, some of the files on there that I find, like, I remember one of the racing maps that we made on the pit that I downloaded. Like, and I got a sweet, like, picture of me doing a wall ride with, like, an explosion in the background. Like, things like that I'm like, that's just, like, I just remember sitting, like, late on a Friday night playing it, early in the morning at that point. Like, some of these games that it's just like, man, that's your history. That's your, that's such an integral part of my, gaming legacy, I guess, if you want to call it, that I look back on at such fond memories that it's like, it's hard to recreate a lot of those moments because it's so, antiquated and so a touchstone of its time, I guess. Like the file share system compared to now, where it's so easy to share large scale files and different things. Streaming such a big thing now, like compared to you look at, back then the file share system was it. Like that was the easiest way to capture game footage and things like that because, capture cards were such a taboo thing even back then for at a consumer level that it's like now everybody and their brother has an Elgato for the most part, who streams or does anything. So it's just such a product of its time, but it's so, to me, so integral and so important to just the history of not only Bungie, but, our generation of gaming for the most part, and online gaming in general. It's such a, big portion of what made console, online console gaming so just impactful. So pour one out, man. Pour one out for Bungie. Pour one out for, what they built with Halo, and really this being that last pillar of, their legacy of Halo kind of closing the door on. So it's sad, but at the end of the day, it is what it is, but Mike, let's change the tune a little bit. Let's be a little more positive. Let's fucking talk about Resident Evil, man. I'm fucking hyped. Let's get into it. So if you weren't in tune with it, today, we're recording on Thursday, the 21st of January, there was a Resident Evil showcase, a la like Nintendo Direct-S thing that, hey, we're going to give you, new info on Resident Evil 8 Village and, some other projects that we're working on. And a lot of people thought, hey, is this where we're going to see, the rumored Resident Evil 4 remake that, it's clear they're working on. But, unfortunately we didn't see that, but we got a lot of cool stuff. So let's dive into it. Firstly, kicking off with, obviously, we got a release date. Resident Evil Village release date revealed in new trailer. This comes from Tyler Fisher over on comicbook.com. As always, link in the description. Today, Capcom finally revealed Resident Evil 8 Village's release date. More specifically, today Capcom revealed that the next mainline installment in Resident Evil will be released on PS5, PS4, Xbox One, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, and PC. That's a fucking mouthful. On May 7th, 2021, which is a little bit later than I expected. So it's going to be a long wait. I'm not going to lie. I digress. To accompany this announcement, Capcom also revealed a brand new trailer of the game, showing off its survival horror gameplay alongside previewing its story, characters, and more. Releasing when it is, Resident Evil Village looks poised to be one of the biggest games of 2021. And as Capcom has noted, it's a great jumping in point for newcomers. However, it is directly connected to Resident Evil 7. Not only is it set a few years after the events of Resident Evil 7, but it has the same protagonist, Ethan Winters. Quote, experience several horror like never before, experienced survival horror, like never before in the 8th major installment in the story Resident Evil franchise, Resident Evil Village. Set a few years after the horrifying events in the critically acclaimed Resident Evil 7, the all-new storyline begins with Ethan Winters and his wife Mia living peacefully in a new location, free from their past nightmares. Just as they are building their new life together, tragedy befalls them once again. Shocker. When Resident Evil 7 released, the series wasn't in a great place. In fact, you could say Resident Evil 7 resuscitated the franchise a bit. Since then, Capcom has released a pair of impressive remakes from Resident Evil 2 and 3, and has branched out to other mediums as well. In other words, Resident Evil Village has far more expectations to live up to than previous mainline installments. Thankfully, especially for Capcom, it looks poised to live up to those expectations. Resident Evil Village will be available for PS5, Xbox Series X, Xbox Series S, PS4, Xbox One, and PC when it releases, and you can follow them for more coverage. This stuff's all kind of breaking, so we're like pulling info right as it's like coming out and everything like that, so you kind of have to bear with us a little bit. But on top of that too, they also revealed that Resident Evil Reverse, a free component of Resident Evil 7 that'll be included with it, is also releasing, like day and date with the game. And it's basically a 6-player deathmatch gameplay event gameplay mode that includes all like previous heroes and villains and stuff from the Resident Evil universe, which is pretty cool. And something Mike and I were talking about too, that something like that is really going to be the feather in the cap for an experience that from Resident Evil 7, specifically me, who I quote that as being like 3/4 of a perfect horror game, or a survival horror game I should say, that it really what the remakes had that benefited them was replayability and different challenges and things like that, where Resident Evil 7 just didn't have that much or as much as those. So this is definitely a nice welcome addition to it. And then additionally too, which is kind of cool, I have a bunch of friends who still play Division. They're doing a crossover. Resident Evil and Capcom are doing a crossover event with the Division 2, where you'll be able to get a Leon Kennedy outfit and different events throughout. I believe February they're going to be doing it. Yeah, February. So it'll be kind of cool leading up to it that you'll have like Chris Redfield join and things like that. Like, it's really cool. Starting February 2nd, the Division 2, they're going to have some stuff with that. They also talked about some of the animated films and whatnot, and I can't remember if they mentioned anything about the live action film that's coming out later this year, but, kind of more so on the back end of stuff. Obviously, we're a little more focused on the gameplay of it, but we got tons of new gameplay footage, different things like that are kind of focused on, obviously Resident Evil 8 kind of coming forward. But one thing that does kind of suck though, for Xbox fans that is, and PC fans and whatnot who are playing these on different platforms, with that marketing deal that they do have, because it seems like Sony has the marketing rights for the game this time around. They will be offering a maiden demo for the game that is released today, but it's PS5 exclusive. So, but luckily, Capcom did say that, hey, we're going to be revealing a new demo that is for all platforms a little bit later in the spring when they do an additional, what am I trying to say? Showcase event. I think they said they're going to do another one, and that will probably accompany that from what it seems like. So everybody will at least get a chance to play a demo of this game at some point. So I'm excited to play it, but it does suck that I was hoping to play it on PC, but I'll be able to play it on PS5. I can let everyone know how it is because I think a lot of people will be interested in it. So that'll kind of be my report back for next week, but tons and tons and tons and tons of new info coming out about Resident Evil 7. So Mike, just right off the cuff, man, what do you think? We've seen some gameplay, quote unquote gameplay previously revealed for the game, which really was not gameplay, but there's a lot more depth to what we saw today from Resident Evil 8 that kind of really sets the tone for this game moving forward. And, really, I got a ton. And it seems like, it really seems like watching this, it's clear what Capcom's trying to do. They wanted to first solidify, hey, the first person perspective can work with Resident Evil. We're going to do it. And that's what they really, I felt, set out to do with 7. Almost distancing themselves from other tropes of Resident Evil, which I say tropes in a more neutral way than, negative or anything like that. But more so the characteristics of a traditional Resident Evil game with that first person, that they want to distance themselves, to say, hey, this is a new generation of Resident Evil, but we want to make sure this works from the ground up. And it does. But watching this gameplay reveal, really, I can feel so many hints of the original Resident Evil being in the castle, and almost feels very akin to being in the mansion within the first game. On top of that, too, very much hints of the monsters and enemies and beasts that you'll encounter feel very Resident Evil 4. And it feels much more, it has elements of that, action elements with that. And it's such a molding of that, but with finally getting this Resident Evil 7 cloak over top of it. So there's a lot of different angles that this game's coming at that I feel look like it's going to work. So, Mike, kind of right off the cuff, what do you think? Where's your mind at right now with Resident Evil 8?
Yeah, I saw a lot of good things that I was really excited to see with this release, or this official release, because there has been leaks and things of that nature that people have been talking about for a while.
Mm-hmm.
So it's nice to finally get some official word on this. And the biggest thing I noticed about it, obviously there can be a lot of speculation about, what does this mean for 8? The release was pretty, it covered quite a bit of information, but also could have left some things up to the imagination. I think the biggest thing that we're looking at is like for the 25th anniversary of Resident Evil, it's really nice that they're going to provide us with the free multiplayer game.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if you are looking at it from the outside in and you're like, why are they developing a multiplayer game when they're focused on single players primarily? And this is a situation where they are actually outsourcing the entire multiplayer game to a different studio. So it shouldn't take anything away from their work on the first person story mode and everything of that nature. So that's pretty big.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the multiplayer looks like it's going to be pretty casual. So not too much out of the realm of expectation there for sure. But moreover, the thing that I really was excited to see was that they stayed with first person. When I was watching Maxi Loeb speedrun Resident Evil 7 the other day, last night, actually, it would have been, he was talking about how he's not surprised that if it goes to first person, because they completely revamped the engine and remade a game and went that direction. And for them to do it for one installment when it was arguably wildly successful would be really silly of them. So that wasn't necessarily a surprise to a lot of the community. But to me personally, it just kind of reinforce the fact that they're listening and paying attention, and they're a game dev that cares, because I'm a little late to the game with Resident Evil. I really did enjoy 4. Adam had it for GameCube, and I really did love playing that game. And then 5 was just one that was not something that I enjoyed all that much, to be honest. And I didn't touch it again until Resident Evil 7. And, obviously it was incredible. I loved that experience so much. In fact, I'm actually probably going to pick up Resident Evil 7, maybe tonight and install it and play it, because I'm looking forward to it that much. But
I think basically it's still on Game Pass for PC. I think maybe
it might be. And that would be, it's something that I wouldn't even hate to invest in, because it's that good type of thing.
Oh, well, yeah. I was going to say, I picked it up on Steam. Granted, I played it on console. I own it on console, but I replayed it over the summer, picking it up during a Steam sale. And playing it on PC just feels so goddamn good. Playing it compared to console, obviously, it's going to be a much different version when you just indifference between PC and whatnot within a first person, but it just feels so fucking good with having that high, playing like you would, be playing on a high refresh monitor and things like that. Like it feels so goddamn good. So if you can play it on PC, I'm looking now to see if it still is on Game Pass for PC. But yeah, if you can't play it on PC, man, it's for your second time around. It is.
Yeah,
it is
absolutely.
on Game Pass on PC. So there you go.
And I want to play the more difficult games. So I think the first one I'll do a playthrough where I try to get a lot of the collectibles and things, and the second one will be a harder difficulty playthrough.
Mm-hmm.
But it seems like they're taking a lot of what they did right with 7, which, trust me, there is a lot to have loved about Resident Evil 7. For everything they did right with Resident Evil 7, it feels like they are pushing that further. And again, we've talked about it at length, so I'll spare the details, but the boat scene obviously kind of killed Resident Evil 7's momentum, and I'm hoping that Resident Evil 8 lacks that kind of, fallback, if you will, I guess you could call it, or downfall of, falling into this trap where, man, this game's almost too believable.
Yeah.
We should really see how far we can make this go. And it was a very annoying gameplay thing for sure when it comes to Resident Evil 7. But as far as bringing it all back to Jack and his family really being victims and really being put to use by Evie, if that is your intention, I think that was actually a reasonable story plot line. And now it was still insane and it was still way over the top. So I'm interested to see what they do with the village. Based on the gameplay that we saw, or at least the footage that we saw, it does look like you're still going to be dealing with people, that are maybe not I guess they're technically zombies, but like, there's some type of illness thing going on. It looked like we did get to see a vision of an Uber enemy potentially throwing someone out of the cabin. There was a lot to like about this drop, and it was one that is surely going to build hype going forward, just simply because, there's just so much to unpack there, and it doesn't feel like they did anything really that bad or that off-putting, especially by the multiplayer bringing it out with a caveat that's like, oh yeah, and by the way, someone else is developing this. So I loved it. I'm thrilled, that they're still pulling on the Ethan and Mia strings, because I felt like there was a lot of pull left there, for a game that was as thorough as Resident Evil 7 was. It didn't barely touch on Ethan and Mia. So I think that they did a really good job kind of setting the scene for the next installment, which after Resident Evil 7, you almost anyone with like two brain cells rubbed together would have known, like, obviously there's more to come type of thing. But it's just nice that, it's actually coming to life, and we're going to see that, you know what I mean?
No, definitely. And that was one of the things I really did like about Resident Evil 7, that I'm so glad that, starting out, it wasn't like, it was a new protagonist. I was happy we went with Ethan compared to, and of course, I mean, this isn't spoiling anything with Resident Evil 7 by any means, because they fucking show it, at within the trailers and whatnot, but that, Chris Redfield is involved. He's part of Resident Evil 7, but not till the end. And of course they do have those callbacks and things like that to show that, hey, this is within that universe and whatnot, but it felt so refreshing going into that game, not worrying about, hey, I have to worry about, 6 games worth of backstory of all these characters. We're talking Chris Redfield, Jill Valentine, Claire Redfield, Leon Kennedy, like so many characters, which I love, and don't get me wrong, I really do adore in that universe, but it's daunting. And it's daunting for a lot of people to, jump into a series that has that many entries into it. It almost has that Final Fantasy feel of it, where, granted, they're not all necessarily linear, and it's more anthology to an extent, but the first couple games are, and it does play into that. And, so it's tough it's daunting for new players, which they obviously clearly focused Resident Evil 7 on, being, hey, this is that jumping in point for you. If you've never played a Resident Evil game, cool, here you go. You can jump in with this and you'll have no problem keeping up with it, which I think was great. So, it's really really a strong point of the series right now, if you ask me. I'm happy to see that kind of carry over into Resident Evil 8. We'll see to what extent, because obviously I think you do still need to play the first game to know what the fuck's going on. Or I should say Resident Evil 7 to know what's going on. Especially with how they're pushing during the stream. They talked about, or the showcase, here, you could buy the complete version, which includes Resident Evil 7, so you're caught up. So clearly, like, they are going to be basing that off of, considering they're using Ethan Winters again, and Mia, and Chris Redfield. So, like, I wouldn't be shocked at the end of this game if fucking Jill Valentine shows up, or Claire, or Leon, or something, or we get some kind of hint. Especially, too, the fact that the merchant from Resident Evil 4 is in this game. So, like, or at least a incarnation of him. Who knows how that plays out. But, so we'll definitely see, obviously, how that all kind of works together at the end of it. But I'm really excited for it. I'm really, really, really looking forward to seeing what Capcom does with this game, because there's not a lot riding on it. I don't want to say, there's a lot riding on this, but this could be that game that finally cements Resident Evil as this, and it has been this premier franchise for a long time, but this franchise that is going to have it's able to carry the weight moving forward in a way that, Assassin's Creed for a while couldn't. It's not that we don't have to worry about that. Oh, it was a flash in the pan type of thing. Oh, the first person perspective was a gimmick. It's not going to last long term. They're going to go right back to the well. But I think Resident Evil, and we've kind of talked about it before, it has enough bandwidth within that franchise to do multiple entries in terms of styles of play. And that kind of falls into, us talking about the multiplayer reverse that's coming with this game. That, you could have so many different avenues for Resident Evil right now. You could have the first-person perspective that's new to the mainline entries. You can have the remakes that have the over-the-shoulder third-person perspective. I wouldn't be shocked if by the end of this year, since we're dealing with the 25th anniversary of this series, that, hey, we get a fixed camera Resident Evil game, akin to Resident Evil 1 and 2, the original Resident Evil entries, where there was a fixed camera. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if we go down that, rabbit hole, and by the end of this year, we get something like that. I think there's so much breadth with this franchise that you can go in so many different avenues for it. And this being the 25th anniversary, like, I wouldn't be shocked if we see a lot of that, and I wouldn't be shocked if we see that on full parade today. But outside of that, Mike, talking about the multiplayer component, Reverse. I keep wanting to call it Revive for some reason, but what do you want out of something like this? Like, I'm sure this is something that, like most multiplayer components of games that are primarily single player experiences, it's a cool throw in. It's a cool, hey, we're going to get to play this, for a couple nights or whatever. But, what is something with this game that could be, obviously, I think we're going to go to Left 4 Dead first, when it comes to a zombie killing experience or whatever. But, what can something like this do to make this a game that, hey, let's throw this in our stable of games that we're going to end up playing when we get everyone together, because it seems like there's going to be PvE elements on top of PvP, so it seems like this is more multi-layered than before. So, what to you does this kind of experience need to do to actually be a hit and not just be kind of a throw-in gimmick or anything like that?
I think you just need to create an experience for people that even those who might not be as skilled as the next player can enjoy. So creating an experience that players who might not be as skilled or gifted at shooters can enjoy just as much as people who are really good at shooters. And I think you need to find a proper balance there, because I do think that, like, giving people the extra life that they're going to get is really an interesting idea, because it'll keep people engaged. Once they die, it's not like, oh shit, I'm dead. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, well, yeah, I'm dead, but I still have, I can still make this X, Y, or Z happen because I still have life, basically. So I do think that that's going to be something that looking at this is going to give it some life or some, extended semblance of that.
Mhm.
And I think, it's going to be very appealing to pretty much all RE fans that you're going to be able to play um, all these legendary characters that have existed in the realm of the game for as long as they have. So I'm really pumped for the multiplayer experience. I don't know exactly what what to think of it at the time at this current point in time because there is going to be all kinds of things going on with it. Um I will say it does kind of feel like just seeing clips of it, seeing the maps. It
Mhm.
feels like they obviously are aware that they have had a lot of success with the remakes, and it feels like they are trying to monetize that. And there's nothing necessarily wrong about that.
Mhm.
To any stretch of the imagination, it's just something that we'll look back on and say, wow, they really either A, they really missed the ball with this one, or B, they really hit this one out of the park. And there's really no in between. So it is curious that we're going to see, like, I'm curious to see where it goes from there and what the reception of it is because there is a beta that you can opt into.
Mhm.
And I think that's going to be something that I want to get involved with. Obviously, we didn't get picked for the Back for Blood for whatever reason,
Mhm.
but I'm really excited to see if maybe I can get my hands on that beta because I am curious to see what they're going to do exactly with it because they did give you a kind of a good experience or a good explanation, I suppose. But until you actually get to play it and, actually experience it, uh, there's not, nothing set in stone yet for that.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Um, but yeah,
I just don't really know. I don't really know what to make of it all because there was a lot to take in with this release, if you will. And I feel like they did a very good job at covering a lot of things. But I do feel like ultimately they might have missed some things in particular, like some explanations. But of course, they don't want to give away the whole farm like right off the bat. You know what I mean?
No, definitely. And it seems like it's going to be almost, I think most people what they want is a Resident Evil Outbreak experience, which was like a game from the PS2 era that was surprisingly online on PS2 and a lot of people loved, not a lot of people played. So a lot of people want something like that I think a lot of players were hoping that Resident Evil Resistance, the multiplayer component of Resident Evil 3 remake, were hoping that would be it, but it didn't seem to scratch the itch that a lot of people wanted out of that. So I mostly see this being just a fun tie-in for the most part for their anniversary, but at the same time too, who the hell knows? It might be something that you know a team with Capcom has been working on for quite a while, and they just said, cool, we're going to support this for a while. If it works out, great. If people start to like it a little bit, we'll invest more into it. And on the player's end, it's not that much of a commitment that you have to make to it. So, it'll be interesting to see if this can be something that rivals that Outbreak experience. And I think a lot of people, like I mentioned before, Left 4 Dead, like I think a lot of people just want an experience like that where it's more PvE focused, it's more get in with your friends and have a good time, and it's not competitive, but it's more, and granted, games like, Call of Duty with their zombies mode, kind of, takes that a bit, but at the same time too, I would rather Resident Evil has always been a much more cinematic experience. Like I would want something more like Left 4 Dead, which literally parodies, being a film, like while you're playing it. So, I think that's something that'd be really fun with it, but I digress. I'm really excited for the game still. Also, too, one thing that I did see kind of pop up on Reset Era, Dusk Golem, who is a leaker in the Resident Evil community, who has been very, very, he has a very strong track record, which a lot of like reporters and things and journalists reach out to him for opinion, like comments on stuff at this point. So I feel pretty safe saying this, but um, who reached out to him that I just saw on here? Patrick Klepek over at Waypoint reached out to him and asked, like, hey, do you know if there's VR that's going to be included with Resident Evil 8 like 7 was? Because a lot of people are saying it doesn't seem like that, and he kind of Dusk Golem kind of said, it was in at some point that he heard, doesn't know the current status or whatnot, but he did say that he was shocked to see that there are other things that are happening, like 100%, that they didn't mention today, like a next gen patch for Resident Evil 7. So it seems like, not only, I'm shocked that we haven't gotten one for both RE2 Remake and 3 Remake, especially 3, considering that just released this past year. I'm shocked we haven't got that yet. So it is cool to see that is getting a next gen patch, that people will get more of a PC experience with that, because it is, like I was saying at the top of the show, really great. But I digress. I'm really excited for this game. So, but I don't want to. We got a couple other news articles I want to kind of run through, so we'll move on to that. I'm sure we'll be talking about RE a lot leading up to the release of its 8th entry in May. So, Mike, let's move on to our next one here. Like I was saying, unfortunately, Cyberpunk back in the news again, of course. Cyberpunk 2077 developers did not believe it was ready to launch in 2020. Shocker. I for one am just shocked. But anyways, Matt T. Kim over at IGN has this piece, as always, link in the description. Cyberpunk 2077 was 2020's hottest game, and it was shaping up to be a good enough launch when reviews for the PC version begin trickling out a few days before its December 12th release date. But once players got their hands on Cyberpunk 2077, especially the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions, excitement turned into frustration as players encountered bugs, glitches, and more. In a report from Bloomberg's Jason Schreier, developers at CD Projekt Red knew that the game was not ready for launch in 2020. According to one developer, quote, they expected the game to be ready in 2022, which is fucking nuts to think, based on the progress the team was making back in 2019. Beyond just bugs and glitches, Cyberpunk 2077's overall performance and playability on consoles like the base PS4 and Xbox One have been reviled. IGN gave the console version of Cyberpunk 2077 specifically a 4 on its review. One hurdle was that the developer tried to develop the engine and the game simultaneously, a decision one developer on Cyberpunk 2077 says was like, quote, trying to drive a train while the train tracks are being laid out in front of you at the same time, according to Bloomberg. Cyberpunk 2077's console version, not the PC version, has been hammered by players for glitches and bugs, some bugs which are game-breaking and end up crashing the game entirely, or sometimes the system it's being played on. Developers seemingly pushed through challenges by believing that they could overcome some of these obstacles themselves, similar to the infamous, quote, BioWare magic. But Cyberpunk 2077 was also developed through periods of intense crunch. In a follow-up tweet, Schreier claims that despite promises from management that crunch would not be required, some managers guilted employees into working more hours by saying other employees will be working longer to pick up the slack. Salaries were also reportedly low, with one junior programmer reporting making around $700 a month. Jesus Christ. In a video message to the public earlier this week, CD Projekt Red co-founder Marcin Iwinski says improving the performance of Cyberpunk 2077 is now the studio's #1 priority, pushing back the launch of the next-gen PS5 and Xbox Series X versions of the game, and planned free DLC. It should be noted that the current PS5 and Series X players are actually playing backwards compatible versions of the PS4 and Xbox One versions of Cyberpunk 2077. But during this message, Iwinski claimed that CD Projekt Red's internal testing did not show many of the bugs and issues players eventually encountered on a console. A statement some of the social media says does a disservice to QA testers, whose job is it to find and evaluate bugs and performance issues. As for why early previews of Cyberpunk 2077 demoed to the public at events like E3 2019 looked better than the final product, that's because the demo was, quote, entirely fake, according to a new report. Neither code nor the gameplay was finalized when the demo was made, and months spent working on the fake demo took away from developing the full game. The backlash has led CD Projekt Red to offer an unprecedented full refund policy for Cyberpunk 2077. But while Sony will honor its refunds, it also announced it will remove digital copies of Cyberpunk 2077 from the PSN store until this issue is resolved. Furthermore, CD Projekt Red faces class action lawsuits over misrepresenting the game to consumers. So, Mike, to quote a band that we both like now, to quote Bring Me the Horizon, quote, it never ends when it comes to the development hell of Cyberpunk 2077. So, I think what's saddest of all about all of this is I think we both know this more than likely isn't the end of shitty news to come out about this game either. I think that's the worst part is we're really just kind of scratching the surface of just the disastrous mess this game was and really currently is still. And the more we learn about the making of this game, the clearer the financial decisions behind it come true, unfortunately. And you could definitely tell once this team went public, or once the studio went public and was being publicly funded to a degree at least, a lot of money was being, forced for them to do their actions. And really, if these remarks that supposed CD Projekt Red employees made anonymously are true, Mike, what does this really signal to the AAA games industry? How does something like this happen when many are stating that a 2022 target date, as early as 2019, that this was said, seems to be the case? While 2 years isn't an astronomical, amount of time, it seems to align with what the final project could have needed to achieve the vision that this game originally had. That 2 years seems about right for this game to sit in the oven for a little bit. So, what does this kind of say for the space that AAA gaming is in right now on this scale?
I would say it's extremely concerning because this is a game that once it was, announced that it was going to be delayed in the way that it was, to me, I think I was on record saying that there's no way in hell that this game comes out on time. Like, there's no way that it's going to be ready. They really need to delay it again. And alas, they didn't. And again, it's not really a huge surprise that they didn't delay it because of the amount of money that they dumped into it. But I would like to say that it was definitely avoidable had they just, not worried about the dollar sign at the end of the day. If they would have actually worried about the people that go into, these decisions, what's, how games are made, when these decisions are being made, they weren't necessarily concerned about the right things, it feels like, because they were so ready to just at any cost pump this game out. And to me, I look at this game and I'm shocked that the game, wasn't delayed. It should have been delayed. And now we see all these stories coming out that basically tell us that everything we were worried about as far as corporations and things of that nature is true when it comes to the developers that developed, Cyberpunk, CD Projekt Red. We see them in the news again countless amounts of times in negative ways, and it's disheartening and it sucks because not only were the employees seemingly set up for failure, the company was so complicit in creating this obvious, failure that was coming down the tracks at them, that there was almost nothing that could have been done to avoid the failure because of the decisions that the company was making, down the road. Hopefully people, the question is, what will other game developers take from this debacle? And I hope that they see that while there is while there is like unarguable pressure on companies to develop and create games that make money, you have to be mindful that just because something is supposed to make money doesn't mean that it's like anything goes in trying to achieve that goal that is making tons of money by selling tons of copies. And now, we see this game fall so flat. I hope that other development companies namely 343 is one that comes to mind almost instantly.
Mm-hmm.
That like no matter how much money you throw at the problem, now all you've done is create an extreme money pit, and you haven't solved any issues that you have.
Mm-hmm.
You just threw more and more money at it, which didn't help anything. In fact, in this case, it seemingly made it worse, because for one person, a junior developer, to be making $700 a month, and you're talking about the massive amounts of money that were going into this game,
Mm-hmm.
now it makes them look even worse, because what the hell are you spending this money on? Where's it going?
Yeah.
And I know, like, we can't really know for sure how much it costs to make, like, we don't get an itemized, like, it costs this much money to make an engine, it costs this much money to do this much money for voice acting, yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we're not going to get that breakdown, but like, that's something that some people would look at and say, like, what the hell are you guys doing? You're spending all this money on this and this and this, but you're not spending any money where it matters.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of what I would say about the entire thing, is like, money doesn't solve everything.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, in this case, it seems like it made a lot more issues than needed to be made.
Mm-hmm. No, and I agree. And that's where, it's, to kind of look at it, you could throw even the sports analogy, because like there's so many, people who are fans of gaming and stuff that, and gaming's getting to a populous level of sorts that, a lot of people are looking at, certain developers and stuff as, similar to sports teams, and following them, and, being fans of them, and treating, their properties kind of like players and things like that, at this point, like you look at, for example, you look at baseball. Baseball has no salary cap. So the richest team, in theory, could just pay to win for the most part. It doesn't always work like that, though. I mean, hell, look at the Cubs for years. Years, the Cubs would spend a shit ton of money, but they would never win. Like, so it doesn't mean that, money doesn't necessarily mean that you're paying for something to come out good from a creative standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
That, hey, we could do all of this. But then when you look at the way that things are and the income inequality within that studio right now, if you're hearing, oh, a junior programmer, somebody who probably has some sort of computer science degree, I would imagine, or some kind of certification within computer science, to have a background where they're comfortable enough to program one of the biggest, quote unquote, biggest games of this console, or last console generation, I guess now, being a PS4 or Xbox One game. And they're coming out making $700 a month. A month! That's asinine. Whenever you have people at the top with CD Projekt Red making millions, I'm sure millions, that doesn't make any sense. That alone tells you how much the state of this industry that we love has started to go awry. And that could possibly also come from, hey, gaming is more popular than ever. And we're seeing the negative side of that, because more people than ever want to work in gaming, want to be involved in making games. That, that mindset of, and as somebody who works, and being quite frank, somebody who works in the sports industry right now, it was always preached to people who wanted to work within sports, that in entertainment and stuff like that, and really anything that, kind of falls into the entertainment, atmosphere, that, it was always preached, well, you're getting to do this, so that makes up for, you're getting to work at a baseball stadium, you're getting to work and do this and work games, like, that makes up for low pay, or that,
that makes up for how bad my job sucks.
And you know what? Fuck that. That is, a job is a job is a job. You're there to do a duty. You're there to be paid for doing a duty. And it doesn't matter. And that's not saying, hey, that's not me talking bad on my job or anything like that, by no means. But like I tell, I actually got to talk to a class of kids today from my undergrad. The head of my undergrad program asked me to Zoom call with one of his classes. And what I talked to him about was like, this line of work burns you out. You're asked to work a lot. You're, asked to do this, but never don't value your free time. Don't ever know that this is a job and you have to have that work-life balance. It's okay to say no. It's okay to say, no, I'm not blowing off a vacation with my family. No, I'm not doing this. And it comes down to, too, which we're seeing more and more with income inequality, especially in the US. And I don't want to go completely down that rabbit hole, but, you know, we're seeing it right here that leads me to see how bad this studio is and where things alone go wrong. That, you know, you're seeing somebody who has, like I said, probably a computer science degree or some kind of certification within computer science so that they're, you know, good enough or understand programming enough to take a role in developing this game and programming for a large studio, that they're only getting paid $700 a month? $700 a month. That's just asinine. That's like part-time money for working a job that is, you know, hey, but don't worry, you're going to have your name in the credits of this game that hopefully will be one of the best games of all time. And it wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. It doesn't matter if your name's in the credit. It just, it seemed this industry on the development end and too on the media end. I've tons of friends who now, or acquaintances that I've made that work in media, work for large scale publications and games media, that they're talking about, no, this is more across that end too. We're seeing crunch on that end. We're seeing things like that it just doesn't. If you're getting paid, I can't. You know, I don't expect. If you ask me, if I'm that dude working for $700 a month, working overtime, not getting paid for it, and I'm getting paid $700 a month, and I'm being forced into that role, how? At some point, you expect that the work isn't going to be that good because they're going to get pissed off. How well do you think their work's going to be if they're being incentivized by, hey, here is a, you know, at minimum a fourth of what you probably should be making a month to be working here. You know what I mean? Does that like at some point you have to be like, this person's probably going to know their worth. Like, I'm worth more than $700 a month for the work I'm doing. Like, fuck them. I'm not doing this type of thing. And they're going to stop working for them, you know? And we're going to see stuff like this where maybe at first they did envision a 2020 release date coming out of this. And then they started crunching and more people started pushing back and more shit started hitting the fan. And the fact that, you know, this, and to be quite honest, this makes me feel better about Halo Infinite more than anything, because at least 343 took well over a fucking year to make their engine first. I'll give them that. If they took the time to make the engine first before they even fucking touched the actual game of what they were going to develop, Halo Infinite. So at least they're fucking miles ahead of CD Projekt Red with this one. So, but yeah, man, it stinks.
But who would have had that on their 2020, well, now 2021 bingo card, that 343 would actually do something right compared to CD Projekt Red? Because I know, you know, I've been a pretty big naysayer. I've been someone who's been pretty, you know, pretty critical of 343 for sure. Mm-hmm. But this is something where you can look at it and be like, wow, 343 actually did something, you know, that makes some at least at some, yeah, at least at some level, it makes sense. You know what I mean?
Right. No, totally agree. Mike, let's move into our last article for this weekend. Unfortunately, usually I'm trying to end on a good note. I usually try to, but we kind of front-ended the show. We started the show on a really exciting good note. But I'm sure this one stings for you a little, and I'm gonna give you the floor, kind of to make your case for why this is not the right move. I'm sure, but Team Ninja's next project is not Neo 3 or new Ninja Gaiden. This comes from Sharif Siad over on Fiji 24/7. As always, link in the description. It looks like Team Ninja is ready to take on something new. Team Ninja's next project may not be a new entry in any of its familiar series. The studio is getting ready to ship Neo 2 Complete Edition on PC and PS5, as well as a remaster of the original game on Sony's console. Once those are out, however, this may be the last we see of Neo. Speaking to The Gamer, Team Ninja's Fumiko Yasuda, I hope I didn't butcher that, I'm really bad with names, said that the studio is not currently working on Neo 3. Quote, Team Ninja would like to focus on working on new titles, so there's really isn't a plan for Neo 3 at this point, said Yasuda. But after creating some new projects and gaining some new experience and skills for those new potential projects, I would like to go back to the series at some point, utilize all the experience and new skills that we gained from some new projects, and create an even greater game to surpass Neo and Neo 2 and create something even better. Yasuda also shot down the idea that perhaps Team Ninja would be going back to Ninja Gaiden. Quote, nothing to announce or note specifically this time, but if the Ninja Gaiden series hadn't existed, then there wouldn't have been a Neo series, the Neo franchise director said. That's a really important series to Team Ninja. While we don't have anything specific to announce at this time, I would like to say just look forward to some potential news of some kind of announcement in the near future, he added, likely referring to an upcoming Ninja Gaiden Remaster collection leaked last year. So, what's next for Team Ninja then? Yasuda could only reveal that the studio is working on a number of projects. Indeed, Team Ninja recently teased that 2021 will be full of announcements from the studio. That said, Yasuda hinted in an interview that the game developer may take on the challenge of creating an open world game, in part because of the fast SSD in every PS5 and Xbox Series X. Let's not, downplay that at least. But the PS5's SSD is really dope, I'm not gonna lie. I digress. I know, Mike, this is probably a tough pill for you to swallow, as we've been talking about. Man, I hope Team Ninja goes back to Ninja Gaiden. It seems very evident that they're going to go back to Ninja Gaiden, but at least there seems to be a little bit of hope regarding a Ninja Gaiden remaster of some sorts in the works. Obviously, if everything comes up, ends up coming true from that previous leak that both mentioned in the story and we've talked about before on the show. But now that we've seen Team Ninja tackle a new series for a few entries, it definitely would have been nice to see them tackle a new take on Ninja Gaiden, for the next generation of consoles. So they aren't working on a Ninja Gaiden title or a new Neo title. So, Mike, what are they working on? What are you hoping to see from a new title from a Ninja Theory, or not Ninja Theory? I'm thinking, anyways, Team Ninja game. Sorry. What are you hoping to see from a Team Ninja game in 2021 and beyond? Given their pedigree with the two series that have been, received pretty consistent praise across the board from fans and critics alike, where do they go from here? And two, on top of that, if this collection of Ninja Gaiden games is true, is that something that you feel is, going to be, appetizing for a lot of fans for the time being, or does it still kind of just, okay, yeah, this is great, but it's still not what we want from the fan base?
I mean, I don't want to try to speak, on behalf of all of the Ninja Gaiden fans out there, because I don't feel like that's fair for me to do personally.
Mm-hmm.
But, fuck it. I am going to speak on everyone's behalf, because I would say that without a doubt, pretty much anyone that's a Ninja Gaiden fan at this point is going to be severely saddened by this news, because there were leaks coming out about, they're making a new Ninja Gaiden game, blah, blah, blah. Then obviously it comes to light that that's not actually the case. And obviously, being a fan, you want to play a new iteration of the game that you love so dearly. Like I love Ninja Gaiden, and it sucks that, they're not coming out with a new one. But at the same time, Ninja Gaiden's a game to me that's, if you aren't in it for real, like you don't care about it, you don't want to actually create that project, then I would prefer you not to create a Ninja Gaiden at all. If you're not, 100% full bore, this is what we should do. So it's a bittersweet moment, because obviously they're not committed to creating a new Ninja Gaiden, as sad as that makes me to admit. But, it also means that they're not going to release something half-assed, which we do see too often in the industry nowadays. As far as a new game, without it being Neo 3 or a new Ninja Gaiden, you would have to say that a Ninja Theory game would only make sense to be some type of adventure game. Now, what that's going to be, I don't really have anything. I have no clue, where we could even go with this as far as a game is concerned, because they have been so intrinsically tied to these two IPs for so long that going somewhere new, you would have to imagine it would be, something in that family of genre. Some people call it hack and slash. I think it's Ninja Gaiden, at least, especially, is probably too difficult to be considered a hack and slash, in my opinion. But nevertheless, I just would like to see, a game that they care about, that they want to make, that challenges me in a way that Ninja Gaiden does, but also tells a great story. Because, for all things considered, when you're looking at Ninja Gaiden as a game, if you play the first or Black, you're going to see or experience a game that's, very difficult. It's something that's going to punish the shit out of you. You have to adapt. You have to learn. You're constantly being challenged. There's new tactics, and you have to pick up on those. And also, it's also a pretty good story-driven game. At least Black is. There's a lot going on, sure. And yeah, it might not be the top focus, but, for all intents and purposes, it tells a really good story about a ninja who is trying to get vengeance for his family, for his tribe, for his family that, lost their lives trying to defend the one thing they were on Earth to do. Their mission was to defend the Black Dragon Sword, and they failed ultimately. But it told a really good story about that struggle and, him coming back and avenging his family, which is, obviously not maybe a textbook ending, because you would have thought maybe there'd be a happily ever after with him and Rachel, the potential love interest. But they also make it apparent that there's really no time for love in a ninja's life, because he just is off onto another mission. He leaves her and without even really saying a word, and he's gone. And to me, the way that game ended, it's tremendous. And if they are really that interested in creating a new Ninja Gaiden, then that's okay. And we'll wait patiently for hopefully there to be a new installment at some point in time, because I just want it done right at the end of the day.
No, definitely. And, me as somebody who has kind of appreciated this franchise from afar and played a little bit of, Ninja Gaiden Black and stuff like that, but, never truly fully dived into the series. I was hoping this would be, hey, we're making a new one and this is my entry point. But as somebody who has wanted to get into the series for a while, I hope that the collection is, the leak of that comes true, which it sounds like it is. I mean, they wouldn't be saying, hey, we have announcements to come, about, hey, it's not a new game, but we do have something, planned to announce regarding Ninja Gaiden later this year. Clearly, that is alluding probably to that, given the leaks. For me, I'm excited about that, because that opens up the possibility of more players like me getting their hands on these games. Specifically, if this is, hey, which I doubt, I'm sure it's probably coming to Xbox One, PS4, and PC too, but at least with backwards compatible, they'll be able to play it on the new consoles. But if this was, hey, this is coming out on PS5 and, optimized for Series X, or Series S, you get what I'm saying. But hey, this is a reason to pick up these consoles. This is, hey, you just bought your new console. This is a good game to buy. You're looking for stuff to buy for this console, to play on this console. In games that are optimized for it. You're wanting the best experience out of it. So, I would love to see something like that. Will that probably happen? Probably not. But at the same time, it is what it is. I'm sure it'll run great on backwards compatibly, through those consoles, and it'll be fine. And especially too, playing on, I would imagine, probably coming to PC. Cool, awesome. Especially with Neo coming, I feel pretty safe that it will come to PC. But I personally would like to see something like that, because I want to get used to playing games of that caliber in terms of what need, or like the skill gap or the skill level that comes with playing those games, in terms of it's hard, it's punishing, but it's not completely unfair. And you learn from, each time you play it, each time you, lose or die, it's almost that Cuphead effect. It's almost that Dark Souls effect, which I'm sure Dark Souls took a lot of influences from Ninja Gaiden and games akin to that, you're learning what certain bosses do, what movesets they have, what phases they're in whenever they're attacking, that you learn what you did wrong and only kind of learn from your mistakes, and that leads to success. And I want to start playing more games like that kind of push me to and challenge me to kind of overcome obstacles, compared to necessarily just straight story-driven games. And I've obviously played games like Cuphead, Dark Souls, things like that, but they've kind of taken a back seat for a lot of different games that I'm playing. But I would like to kind of get back in and try to, play some of those games. And starting with potentially, hopefully, a Ninja Gaiden collection that we see coming out, a remastered one. But I digress. So, Mike, before we wrap up the show this week, let's head into Party Chat, which, if you're new to the show, that's when we propose a question at the end of each show every week that we just want to talk about. A discussion point. Could be as simple as what's your favorite story beat of game, what have you been playing during quarantine, or it could be a little more in depth as to why the negative stigma around gaming still exists and such. And after answering it ourselves, we'll kick it over to you to tweet your responses to the question over on our Twitter at GPGC Podcast, as well as our email. You can write in there too. And we'll read some of the responses the following week. Last week's question: do you see this console generation becoming the one that fully integrates Discord into the respective system's OS? And Hartman Play 852 over on Twitter said, if any console I expect to see it with is Xbox, given how they update and refresh their OS and dashboard, which that's a good point. I didn't really think of that. They do update that shit a lot and change it a lot. So I can see that happening. This week's question, Mike, for 2021, I want you to give me what is one thing that you wouldn't expect? Because right now we keep talking about this fucking bingo card that nobody is expecting shit to get on. I want you to give me one, hey, who was expecting that to be on the bingo card for 2021? Give me one of those examples that you're hoping to see in 2021. An off the wall thing that, you know what, that's crazy, but that's just crazy enough that it might happen. I want you to give me one prediction for 2021 like that. In gaming, obviously. I mean, maybe we could have, hey, the zombie apocalypse is going to happen this year. And I'd be like, well, we are coming off of a pandemic. So, yeah, shit happens, I guess.
I would like to see. You're talking about what's going to be scratched off the bingo card, something out of nowhere that we're going to see. Mm-hmm. Let's see. I'm going to go with, it's something that's not going to happen, but if it does, I'm just going to shrug and be like, thank God. For the first time, there's been a lot of negative stuff that has happened through 2020, and even 2021's off to kind of a rough start, especially for us here in the States. Mm-hmm. I would like to see a true Rainbow Six, like a classic Rainbow Six experience. Mm-hmm. So at least released, like not released. I mean, announced. Mm-hmm. So I would like them to say, yeah, we have Siege. It's going great, but it's getting up there in age, blah, blah, blah. It's time to, start thinking about, what's going to be next for us. And I'm hoping it's a more classic, maybe not Ding Chavez type experience, because that is really classic, but I'm just hoping to get a fresh iteration of a Rainbow Six game that feels, like the classics. And again, it's 2021, so that's not going to happen. But if it does come off my bingo card, I just have to, get some positivity going out there, because everyone's so negative, and for probably good reason, in a sad way, because it's just life's been so crazy recently. Mm-hmm. But for me, if I'm hoping that I can speak this thing into existence, or alternatively, you're going to get a bonus one, because we just got terrible news that I fucking hope that, Ninja Theory comes out and says, oh, no, we were just lying because people leaked it and we were pissed. We're actually coming out with a new Ninja Gaiden. That would be great. I would love life.
Mm-hmm. This kind of hit me earlier today when I was thinking about this question. Technically,
this is technicality.
This is tinfoil hat time.
Uh-oh.
This year is the 20th anniversary of Halo CE. Technically, from what I've heard and what we've seen and whatnot, 343 has another game in development, supposedly.
Whoa.
I think we see what that game is this year. Now, who knows what the scale is? Who knows what type of experience this is? Hell, it could be some kind of hey, we were working on some kind of project that involves MCC of some sorts, or where we completely we did another anniversary edition of Halo CE or something like that. I don't know, but I think we see that this year, or we at least get it announced, because of how much is around the 20th anniversary of Halo in general. With Infinite being pushed back, I think a ton of people are, one, seeing the writing on the wall of, oh yeah, it's the 20th anniversary, and that makes a lot of sense that they would just hold it for that long, gives them more time to develop. But I think Microsoft will want to build so much more around this game than they already have, that with the delay, with this being the anniversary, with this being Microsoft's flagship franchise, this is the first time they're having one of those Mario moments. And I say that in Nintendo, every 5 years, they're putting out some kind of, hey, it's the 35th anniversary of Zelda. Hey, it's the 30th anniversary of Mario. Hey, it's this and that, like, that they're putting out these anniversaries all the time. Same with Sony. Sony started to have that now, over the past 10 years. Microsoft hasn't had that ability to do that. Hey, we have a major milestone where, oh yeah, 10-year anniversary, that's cool. Yeah, definitely. But now you're starting to enter into that like fabled history of games that not many, hardware manufacturers, their exclusive titles, always necessarily get to do, where this game franchise is still running to this date. So I think they're going to try to build something up around that. Now, who the hell knows? That may not come to fruition, and I may be wrong, just like you were saying, like, who the fuck knows? But I'd love to see it happen. I'd love to see something like off the wall that people are like, oh, fuck. Like, people like us who have been critical of 343, and rightfully so to a degree, that it's like, I want to see us be surprised by them, because they are predictable to a degree, because it's the Halo studio. Yeah, they're working on Halo. What else are they working on? There's something
Literally.
else, because they have hundreds of employees at 343 proper alone. So, like, supposedly they're having another project in the works. I would like it to be something obviously smaller scale, but this surprises us. That kind of catches us off guard to be like, whoa, I did not see that coming, type of thing. So, Mike, I think that's going to do it for our episode this week. Why don't you tell people where they can find you on the interwebs, talk about everything we talked about, our hype around Resident Evil 8, our hype around anything involving really Resident Evil in general. We fucking gushed about Resident Evil this series, or this episode, but Cyberpunk 2077, the continuous shit show surrounding that, and the heartbreak around Team Ninja and no Ninja Gaiden proper, I guess, entry coming soon. Where can people find you to talk about all the nerdy stuff that we do on the internet?
You can find me on Twitter at TOYSXLDIER. That's Toy Soldier, and the second O is an X. Or you can find me on Twitch at MP_Toy Soldier. Feel free to stop in there at either one of those locations and let me know what you've been thinking about the show and what you think about the new microphone quality. Because I will say, I'm hoping that it does make a significant difference when it comes to the quality of the recording.
Mm-hmm. Oh, definitely. I thought it sounded great so far. I mean, I know this was your first time around, but doing it with a new microphone, but I thought the levels sounded good, and this is obviously a little inside baseball or whatever that we're talking about, but fuck it. No, I thought it sounded good. I was really happy with the product that was put out, like this product that you're using now, because it's a Sennheiser, right?
No, this is a Samson. It's
the
G-Tech.
That's right. That's right. I've heard good things about that, so. And obviously it sounds pretty good, but I digress. Anyways, I'm your host as always, Travis White, aka Travlis, on most internet platforms, including at Travlis_ on Twitter. That's TRAVLESS_. You can also find me streaming time to time on twitch.tv/Travlis_, same as Twitter. And if you want to play some games with me, good old Vigi games, man, you can do so over on Xbox Live. Really, any platform is just regular Travlis. That's TRAVLESS, no underscore. And this, ladies and gentlemen, has been your newest episode of the Game Pass Gamecast, your weekly go-to podcast for all things Xbox Game Pass, and PC gaming, including news, rumors, and conversations around them damn good video games. You can catch new episodes of the show when they drop each and every Friday morning on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, and all other major podcast services. So be sure to subscribe to us, rate us, review us, all of that jazz wherever you get a podcast at, and follow us on Twitter at GPGC Podcast. Stay up to date with everything regarding the show, video games like and our dope giveaways. With that being said, it's going to do it for our episode this week, Mike. Thank you everyone so much for listening, sharing, and being a part of our growing community. Game on, wash your hands, listen to the doctors, Black Lives Matter, and we will see you next week.